Hello everyone, welcome to Analog IAS Current Affair Analysis for 15 June 2020, and these are the articles we'll be dealing today. The first article for the day is taken from the Hindu and it is titled The Need for an Anti-Discrimination Law. So basically this particular article signifies the need for a explicit law. So why are fundamental rights called fundamental? The reason why fundamental rights are called so is because they encapsulate the basic philosophy of what should be the direction in which every aspect of human rights should be like. So they will actually represent the philosophy behind the conception of human right. So the present article says that when it comes to discrimination, discrimination is a way of life across the world, and we have seen in the Black Lives Matter campaign in the United States and across the world as to how people came out and fought for the campaign against the death of George Floyd. So in India, we have to take a look at our constitutional principles. They are indeed present, but there is no explicit law which ensures that there is anti-discrimination. So it is definitely there in principle, and it leads to judiciary every single time to understand whether a particular fundamental right has been violated or not. This kind of judicial intervention at every stage is a problem because the author quotes certain international as well as national level examples where there is inherent judicial bias. So we are going to talk about those particular cases, and we are going to prove a point that there is a necessity for anti-discrimination law. That is the agenda of this article. So the author presents an international example where judiciary has inherently subjected its bias upon the judgment. So we are referring to a case called the Griggs versus Duke Power Company case in United States in 1971. So US Civil Rights Act of 1964, it says that racial discrimination in private workplaces shall be deemed illegal. But in this particular case, so this Duke Power Company, what it has insisted is that there is a very difficult and a superfluous written test by applicants for their entry level jobs. Now the court in this particular order has decreed that African Americans have been subjected to historically injustice because they did not have proper access to education. So you have to consider that aspect as well to ensure their empowerment, so the papers can't be so tough. That has been the judgment given by the court in that particular case. But do we see that such kind of judgments exist in India which can even deal with private contracts? That is the question we have to ask. Because in India, discrimination is not just limited to public space but also private spaces as well. Now, if we take a look at Madhu versus Northern Railway case, the court has indeed referred to this Griggs versus Duke Power case. It has not exactly recognized certain realm of private contracts. Now let us have a look at what this contract is all about. So basically, there was a case where railways had denied free medical treatment to the wife and daughter of an employee, which they would otherwise have been entitled to under the rules. The reason Northern Railways gave was the employee had disowned his family and had had their name struck off his medical card. The court held that to make essential benefits such as medical services subject to a declaration by an employee might be facially neutral, but it has produced a disparate impact, particularly on women and children. So indirectly it has reflected the spirit of Griggs versus Duke Power Company's judgment. But the court has fallen short on one ground. While the case concerned the discrimination by the state, entry barriers to goods such as housing, schools, employment, all this tend to come under the sphere of private contracts. Now, how do we do this? If we take a look at Article 15, Clause 2, it says that citizens shall not, on grounds only of race, religion, caste, sex, place of birth be denied to access to shops, public restaurants, hotels and places of public entertainment. But again, this right which applies horizontally, that is between individuals, comes into contact with the rights of persons to associate with others. So that is the problem. It leads to exclusion of certain groups. The author takes another example. Say for example, the author is quoting a case where a person refused to lease her property to another based on the customer's faith. Now such a refusal would run directly against right to equality. But again, that is in conflict with Article 15 Clause 2. So such kind of inherent contradictions can be handled only when there is a comprehensive law, just like in the case of United States, which clearly delineates the contours of this anti-discrimination policy. Only then we don't have to subject ourselves for continuous judicial intervention, which only delays the process of accessing our rights. That is the gist of this article, and that is what the author is trying to say. Second article is taken from the Hindu and it is about India-Nepal relations. It is titled No Longer Special. Recently, Nepal came out with a map which included the disputed territories of Kalapani within its own geographical region. So this Nepal's new map became a reality on last Saturday after its ratification by Parliament as a constitutional amendment bill. India had suggested that by crossing the red lines of issuing the new map and tabling the bill in Parliament, Nepal had closed the door on dialogue. So that is the reason Nepal is no longer considered to be a special friend. Earlier, after Nepal Prime Minister KP Oli's outburst in Parliament about India on the border dispute, it had said that Nepal has to create the right ambience for talks. So by dragging its feet in providing a date for talks since last year when the border issue came up, Delhi fueled the rise of territorial nationalism, which was exploited by Oli in creating his political career. So if you want to know why India actually built a road through a territory claimed by Nepal, we have to go back into our history. India has been effective in possession of this territory for at least 60 years through Nepal claims. It conducted a census there in early 1950s and refers to 1815 Treaty of Segoli. But India laid a new road till Lipu Lake Pass, and it is not an unprecedented change in the status quo. India has controlled this territory and built other infrastructure as well, and besides conducting its administration and deploying military forces up to the border pass with China, India has been traditionally mounting its soldiers in this area as well. The reason why this area is very important is because of its strategic location. It is one of the quickest links between Delhi and the Tibetan Plateau. In 2015 statement, China also recognized India's sovereignty by agreeing to expand trade through Lipu Lake Pass. So this present contention by Nepal is a surprise of sorts, and it has been created with the help of the campaign run by political activists in Nepal, especially the present party in dispensation. So even in the past, India did not stop itself from taking very harsh measures, because if you take a look at the 2015 blockade that severely affected India's landlocked neighbor, that is Nepal, the Oli government, which seeks to build its legacy by overturning what it calls unequal agreement, that is the treaty with India, he wants to renegotiate that deal. So therefore, presently the relations are not so good with Nepal, but India must do its best to negotiate a proper deal with Nepal and ensure that this matter is settled as soon as possible. That is the gist of this article.